Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the massive alien space station grow larger on the main screen. After 6 months of traveling through space, they had finally reached Centauri Trade Station. This was humanity's first real meeting with other intelligent life forms, and Jake felt the weight of representing his entire species. "It's bigger than we thought," said Dr. Lisa Campbell, the ship's science officer. She was studying the readings from their sensors. The station was over 10 miles long and covered in strange lights and metal structures that looked nothing like human technology. "Keep recording everything," Jake told her. "Earth needs to know what we're dealing with." Tony Rodriguez, the security chief, checked his weapons one more time. "Captain, are you sure we should go over there with just the 3 of us?" Jake nodded. "We need to show them we trust them, but stay alert." The alien ship that came to escort them was sleek and silver, moving without any visible engines or exhaust. It made their own chemical rockets look like toys from a museum. Jake tried not to show how impressed he was, but inside he wondered if humanity was ready for this. The docking bay was enormous, filled with ships from dozens of different worlds. Strange creatures moved around the area, some walking on 2 legs like humans, others crawling or floating. The air tasted different, and gravity felt lighter than Earth normal. A tall, blue-skinned alien approached them. He had 4 arms and golden eyes that seemed to look down on them with amusement. "I am Commander Kethtar of the Zephyrian Empire," he said in perfect English. "Welcome to our station, primitive ones." Jake kept his face calm, even though the insult stung. "I'm Captain Morrison of Earth. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." Kethtar's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. "Earth. Yes, we have heard of your little world. Still using chemical rockets, I understand. How quaint." They walked through corridors filled with amazing technology, walls that showed moving pictures of distant worlds, floors that seemed to be made of pure energy, and machines that did things Jake couldn't even understand. Everything made human technology look ancient and clumsy. The meeting room was circular, with a large table in the center. Around it sat representatives from different alien species. A thin, gray creature with large black eyes introduced herself as Trade Minister Velnara from the Nexus Alliance. Her voice sounded like music, but her words were cold. "We have studied your species," Velnara said. "You have only recently learned to leave your home planet. Your weapons are crude. Your ships are slow. Your technology is thousands of years behind ours." Dr. Campbell shifted uncomfortably next to Jake. He could see her wanting to argue, to tell them about human achievements, but they had all agreed to let him do the talking. "We're always eager to learn," Jake said carefully. "Perhaps we can help each other." Kethtar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed around the room. "Help each other? What could you possibly offer us? We have weapons that can destroy planets, ships that travel between stars in days, technology that can control matter itself." "Humans are creative problem solvers," Jake replied. "We've overcome many challenges on our world." "Challenges?" Another alien, covered in scales and speaking through a translator device, joined the conversation. "You still fight wars with each other. Your people die from diseases we cured centuries ago. You pollute your own planet and struggle to feed your population." Jake felt heat rising in his cheeks but kept his voice steady. "We're working on those problems." Velnara touched a device on the table, and a holographic image appeared, showing Earth from space. It looked small and fragile, with swirling white clouds and blue oceans. "Your world is beautiful," she said. "It would be a shame if something happened to it. The galaxy can be dangerous for young species who don't know their place." The threat was clear but spoken politely. Jake's hands clenched under the table, but he forced himself to stay calm. "What are you suggesting?" he asked. Kethtar leaned forward. "The Zephyrian Empire offers protection to lesser species. In exchange for acknowledging our authority and paying tribute, we keep you safe from the many dangers of space." "What kind of tribute?" Tony asked, speaking for the first time. "Resources, technology, perhaps some of your people to serve in our fleets. Nothing too demanding for such a young civilization." Jake exchanged glances with Lisa and Tony. They all understood what was really being offered. Slavery disguised as protection. "I'll need to discuss this with my government," Jake said. Velnara's large eyes blinked slowly. "Of course. But don't take too long to decide. The galaxy is full of species who weren't as generous as we're being today." As they toured more of the station, Jake noticed how the aliens treated other species. Some were clearly equals, their representatives dressed in fine clothes and speaking with confidence. Others seemed to be servants or slaves, keeping their eyes down and moving quickly out of the way. In the hangar where their ship was docked, Jake saw alien technicians examining the USS Liberty with what looked like scanning equipment. Tony started to object, but Jake stopped him with a gesture. "Let them look," he whispered. "They'll only see what we want them to see." That night, alone in their quarters on the station, Jake activated a special communication device hidden in his luggage. It looked like a simple tablet computer, but it used quantum encryption technology that the aliens wouldn't recognize. "Earth Command, this is Morrison," he said quietly. "The situation is as expected. They see us as primitives. Recommend we maintain the facade and prepare for Phase 2. The reply came back immediately. "Understood, Captain. President Walsh sends her regards. Continue the mission as planned." Jake smiled for the first time since arriving at the station. If the aliens wanted to believe humans were weak and stupid, that was fine with him. Earth had been preparing for this moment for longer than anyone suspected. The next morning, Kethtar and Velnara met with them again. This time they brought what they called a standard protection agreement. The document was dozens of pages, long, written in legal language that was hard to understand. "This is quite generous," Kethtar said. "Most species don't get such favorable terms." Jake pretended to read through it carefully, though he had already decided what his answer would be. "This is a big decision for my people. I need to return to Earth and discuss it with our leaders." Velnara's expression suggested she thought this was a waste of time. "Very well. But remember, this offer won't remain open forever. Other empires are less patient than we are." As the USS Liberty prepared to leave the station, Jake watched the aliens through the view screen. They looked confident and amused, like adults who had just offered candy to children. They had no idea what was really coming their way. 3 months had passed since Captain Jake Morrison returned from Centauri Trade Station. The aliens had grown impatient with Earth's silence. Commander Kethtar was no longer willing to wait for humanity's answer to their protection offer. On the bridge of his flagship, the massive warship Dominion, Kethtar studied the holographic display showing Earth's solar system. 20 Zephyrian warships hung in space around him, their weapons charged and ready. "Such a small, pathetic system," he said to his second-in-command. "One yellow star, a few rocky planets, and these humans think they can ignore the mighty Zephyrian Empire." "Sir, our scouts report only basic orbital stations around their home world," reported the weapons officer. "No significant military presence detected." Kethtar laughed. "Of course not. They probably have a few primitive satellites with chemical rockets. This will be over quickly." The Zephyrian fleet moved deeper into the solar system. Their advanced sensors showed them what looked like mining, operations in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. A few small human ships moved slowly between the rocks, probably collecting metal and ice. "Ignore those mining ships," Kethtar ordered. "They're no threat to us. Set course for Earth." But the Zephyrian commander didn't know that Admiral Susan Parker was watching his every move from inside one of those mining operations. Hidden deep within a hollowed-out asteroid, the command center of the USS Constellation buzzed with quiet activity. "Enemy fleet is exactly where we expected," reported Lieutenant Davis from the sensor station. 20 ships, moving in standard formation. Admiral Parker studied the tactical display. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen many battles. "They're so confident they're not even running full sensor sweeps. Perfect." The asteroid belt around them wasn't really a mining operation. It was the most advanced military trap ever built by human hands. What looked like mining equipment was actually a network of weapon platforms, each one disguised to appear harmless on alien sensors. "Signal all units," Admiral Parker ordered. "Operation Mousetrap is now active. Maintain concealment until my command." On Earth, President Karen Walsh sat in the Situation Room deep underground. Around her, military leaders and government officials watched screens showing the approaching alien fleet. "Madam President," said Defense Secretary Richard Hayes, "the enemy will be in Earth orbit in 6 hours. Should we begin evacuation of major cities?" President Walsh shook her head. "No evacuations. That would only cause panic. Besides, Admiral Parker assures me the aliens won't get that far." General Pete Collins leaned forward. "Are we sure this plan will work? Those are 20 warships out there." "General, humanity has been preparing for this day since first contact," the president replied. "Trust our people." Back in space, the Zephyrian fleet continued toward Earth. They were now passing through the outer edge of the asteroid belt. Kethtar was already composing the surrender message he would broadcast to Earth's population. "Commander," called his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." "Put it on screen," Kethtar ordered. President Walsh's face appeared on the main viewer. She looked calm and determined, not at all like someone whose world was about to be conquered. "Commander Kethtar of the Zephyrian Empire," she began, "you were offered the chance to leave our system peacefully. You chose to bring weapons of war to our home. You have made a terrible mistake." Kethtar sneered at the screen. "Primitive human, you are in no position to make threats. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." "We gave you fair warning," President Walsh replied. "What happens next is your choice, not ours." The transmission ended. Kethtar turned to his crew with amusement. "Did you hear that? They think they're warning us. Increase speed. Let's end this farce." But as the alien fleet moved deeper into the asteroid belt, things began to change. What had looked like simple mining equipment suddenly started moving in ways that didn't make sense. Large structures that appeared to be ore processors began turning toward the Zephyrian ships. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, his voice showing the first hint of concern. "I'm getting strange readings from those mining platforms." Before Kethtar could respond, Admiral Parker's voice echoed across space on all frequencies. "Attention, Zephyrian fleet. You are surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or face the consequences." "Surrounded?" Kethtar looked at his tactical display. "By what? I see nothing but mining equipment and asteroids." That's when the trap revealed itself. The mining equipment suddenly dropped its disguises. Massive weapon platforms emerged from asteroid hiding places. What had looked like simple ore haulers were actually heavily armed destroyers. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner, commanding the stealth ship USS Shadow, had been hiding behind a large asteroid for hours. His ship was painted black and covered with special materials that made it nearly invisible to alien sensors. "All stealth units, this is Shadow," he broadcast. "Execute flanking maneuver. Hit them from behind." 6 human warships appeared behind the Zephyrian fleet as if from nowhere. They had been drifting silently through space, looking like pieces of space debris on alien sensors. Kethtar stared at his tactical display in shock. Red warning lights were everywhere. His 20 ships were now surrounded by over 30 human vessels, and more were appearing every second. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence said they were primitives." His weapons officer's hands were shaking as he read his instruments. "Sir, those weapon platforms are charging some kind of energy weapons. I've never seen power readings like this." On the USS Constellation, Admiral Parker watched the alien fleet with satisfaction. Years of planning and preparation had led to this moment. "All units weapons free. Show them what human engineering can do." The first shot came from the weapon platform designated Thunder 1. It fired a kinetic projectile accelerated to nearly the speed of light. The tungsten rod hit the Zephyrian ship Sword of Victory and went completely through it from bow to stern. The alien warship exploded in a ball of superheated gas and metal. "Impossible," Kethtar screamed. "Our shields should have stopped that." But human weapons were designed differently than anything the aliens had seen before. Instead of energy, beams that could be deflected by shields, they used solid projectiles moving at incredible speeds. The alien defenses were useless. Captain Danny Foster, commanding the heavy cruiser USS Thunderbolt, targeted the second-largest enemy ship. "Fire plasma cannon array," he ordered. The human plasma weapons were different too. Instead of the focused beams used by most galactic civilizations, they fired clouds of superheated gas that spread out and engulfed their targets. Within minutes, 5 Zephyrian warships were destroyed. The survivors were in complete panic, their formations broken, their confidence shattered. "All ships retreat," Kethtar ordered. But there was nowhere to run. Every direction was blocked by human vessels. The battle that was supposed to be an easy conquest had become a nightmare. Earth had looked weak, but humanity's warships had taken command of the battle in a way that shocked the galaxy. The Zephyrian fleet was in chaos. Half their ships were already destroyed or badly damaged. Commander Kethtar watched in horror as his powerful war fleet was torn apart by weapons he didn't understand. "How are they doing this?" he shouted at his officers. "Their technology should be thousands of years behind ours." His tactical officer was pale with fear. "Sir, their weapons ignore our energy shields completely. They're using solid projectiles and some kind of gravity manipulation we've never seen before." Captain Danny Foster aboard the USS Thunderbolt was demonstrating exactly that. His ship had moved to a position above the largest Zephyrian vessel and was preparing a special attack. "Load the gravity hammer," Foster ordered his weapons crew. The gravity hammer was a human invention that used small black holes to accelerate metal rods to incredible speeds. The projectile would bend space around itself, making it impossible for enemy shields to deflect. "Target locked on the enemy flagship," reported the weapons officer. "Fire," Foster said calmly. The metal rod shot out from the Thunderbolt and curved through space, following a path that seemed to defy physics. It struck Kethtar's ship and punched through 3 decks before exploding inside the engine room. The Dominion shook violently. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the ship. "Engine power at 20%, screamed the engineering officer. Meanwhile, Major Kelly Brooks was leading a squadron of human fighter craft from the carrier USS Valiant. The small ships moved through space in ways that confused the alien computer systems. "Blue Squadron, follow my lead," Kelly said into her radio. "Remember, these aliens rely too much on their computers. Fly like humans, not like machines." The human fighters twisted and spun through space in patterns that seemed random, but were actually carefully planned. The alien automated defense systems couldn't predict where they would go next. Kelly's fighter dove toward a Zephyrian cruiser, dodging the energy beams that tried to track her. At the last second, she fired 2 missiles and pulled up sharply. The missiles hit the alien ship's weapon systems, disabling its main guns. "That's how you do it," she called to her squadron. "These computers can't think like we can." The alien ships tried to form a defensive circle, but human tactics were unlike anything they had experienced. On Earth, humans had fought each other for thousands of years. They had learned every trick of war, every way to outsmart an enemy. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner brought his stealth destroyer USS Shadow around behind the alien formation. His ship was still invisible to their sensors, painted black and running silent. "All weapons ready," Turner told his crew. "Let's show them what a surprise attack really looks like." The Shadow fired all its weapons at once. Kinetic projectiles, plasma bursts, and missile salvos hit 3 alien ships before they even knew the human destroyer was there. 2 of the ships exploded immediately. Admiral Parker watched the battle from her command center inside the asteroid. The human forces were winning, but she wanted to send a message that would be remembered across the galaxy. "All units prepare to demonstrate human coordination," she broadcast. "Execute Formation Delta." What happened next amazed even the human crews. 37 human warships moved together like dancers in perfect harmony. They surrounded the remaining alien vessels in a complex pattern that looked like a closing flower. Each human ship knew exactly where every other ship would be. Their quantum communication systems allowed them to coordinate in ways the aliens had never seen. While galactic civilizations relied on individual ship commanders making their own decisions, humans fought as one unified force. Kethtar watched his tactical display with growing despair. The human ships moved together so perfectly that they seemed to share a single mind. Every time his remaining vessels tried to break out of the trap, human ships were already waiting for them. "Sir, we need to surrender," his communications officer said. "We've lost 15 ships, the others are all damaged." Never, Kethtar snarled. The Zephyrian Empire does not surrender to primitives. But even as he spoke, another human weapon was targeting his ship. This time it was a plasma cannon from the USS Constellation itself. Admiral Parker had decided to end this personally. The plasma hit the Dominion's bridge directly. The explosion threw Kethtar across the room and knocked out most of his control systems. Emergency power flickered on and off. Dr. Lisa Campbell, who was watching the battle from the USS Liberty, recorded everything through advanced sensors. Admiral Parker, we're getting transmissions from the alien ships. They're trying to call for help. Let them, Parker replied. I want their friends to hear what happens when you threaten Earth. The human ships pressed their attack. They used weapons and tactics that the aliens had never encountered. Some fired swarms of tiny missiles that worked together like insects. Others used energy weapons that could bend around corners and hit targets hiding behind cover. Captain Mike Stevens, commanding the destroyer USS Lightning, showed off another human innovation. His ship fired what looked like a simple metal ball, but when it got close to an alien vessel, it split into 100 smaller projectiles that hit the target from every direction at once. The alien ship didn't just get destroyed, it got completely shredded into tiny pieces. My God, whispered one of the surviving alien officers. What kind of weapons are these? The answer was simple but terrifying. Human weapons. On Earth, humans had spent centuries developing new ways to fight wars. They had created weapons designed to overcome every possible defense. The peaceful galactic civilizations had never needed such deadly innovation. As the battle continued, more alien ships fell to human tactics. The USS Shadow used stealth and surprise. The USS Thunderbolt used gravity weapons that couldn't be stopped. The fighter squadrons used unpredictable flying that confused enemy computers. Finally, only 5 Zephyrian ships were left. They were all damaged and trying desperately to escape. Kethtar's flagship was barely functional, leaking air and losing power. Human commander, Kethtar transmitted on an open channel. I demand to speak with your leader. Admiral Parker's face appeared on every screen in the alien fleet. She looked calm and professional, not like someone who had just won a great victory. I am Admiral Susan Parker of the Earth Defense Force, she said. You are defeated. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. This is impossible, Kethtar shouted. You're primitives. You barely have space travel. Parker smiled coldly. You believed what we wanted you to believe. That was your first mistake. Attacking our home was your last mistake. She gestured to someone off screen. Allow one ship to escape. Let them tell the galaxy what happened here today. The USS Lightning moved aside, creating a gap in the human formation. One badly damaged Zephyrian ship limped away toward deep space, carrying survivors who would spread the word of humanity's true power. The age of underestimating Earth was over. The news spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. The single Zephyrian ship that escaped the battle carried a message that shocked every civilization. Humanity was not the primitive species they had pretended to be. On Centauri Trade Station, Trade Minister Velnara received the emergency transmission from the surviving Zephyrian vessel. Her large black eyes grew even wider as she listened to the panicked report. 20 ships destroyed in less than an hour, the alien survivor gasped through the communication device. Their weapons ignore our shields. Their tactics are unlike anything we've ever seen. The humans, they were never weak at all. Velnara immediately called an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the Great Chamber, their faces showing confusion and fear. How is this possible? Demanded the Corlan ambassador, his scaled skin changing colors with emotion. Our intelligence report said they barely had space travel. Intelligence reports can be wrong, Velnara said quietly, especially when the subjects want them to be wrong. Within days, the political situation across the galaxy began to change. Species that had ignored humanity's first diplomatic contacts were now desperately trying to establish friendly relations with Earth. President Karen Walsh sat in her office reading through dozens of formal requests for meetings. Defense Secretary Richard Hayes sat across from her, a small smile on his face. Madam President, we're receiving diplomatic requests from over 50 different civilizations, Hayes reported. They all want to establish trade agreements and mutual defense treaties. And 3 months ago, they wouldn't even return our calls, Walsh replied. Amazing how quickly attitudes change when people realize you're not helpless. The biggest change came from the Nexus Trade Alliance. Belnara herself arrived at Earth in a massive diplomatic ship, accompanied by a fleet of vessels carrying gifts and trade goods. Admiral Jake Morrison, promoted after his successful first contact mission, met her at the new space station that humanity was building in Earth orbit. The station was called New Geneva, and it would serve as Earth's first permanent embassy to the galaxy. Admiral Morrison, Belnara said as she stepped off her ship, I hope we can put our previous misunderstandings behind us. Jake remembered their first meeting when she had threatened Earth with destruction. Now she was smiling and offering friendship. That depends on what you're offering now, he replied. Full membership in the Nexus Alliance, she said immediately. Equal voting rights, unrestricted trade access, and mutual defense agreements. We would be honored to have humanity as partners. The word partners was important. Before the battle, they had offered humanity the chance to be servants. Now they wanted to be equals. Dr. Lisa Campbell was put in charge of the new scientific exchange program. Her job was to share some human knowledge with alien civilizations while learning about their technology. It was a delicate balance. Humanity wanted to benefit from galactic science without giving away their military secrets. The key is selective sharing, she explained to her team. We can teach them about our medical advances and agricultural techniques, but our weapons technology and military tactics stay classified. The aliens were eager to learn. Human medicine was actually more advanced than most galactic civilizations because Earth's doctors had to deal with so many different diseases and injuries. Human agriculture was efficient because Earth's farmers had to feed billions of people on a crowded planet. But when alien scientists asked about human weapons, Lisa politely changed the subject. General Pete Collins was tasked with setting up military advisor programs with friendly alien species. Many civilizations wanted to learn human fighting techniques, but Collins was very careful about what he taught. We can show them basic defensive strategies, he told his staff. How to coordinate multiple ships, how to use cover effectively, how to plan tactical retreats, but the advanced stuff stays with us. The general understood that humanity's greatest advantage was that other species didn't know the full extent of human capabilities. If they shared everything, that advantage would disappear. Admiral Susan Parker became the most famous human in the galaxy. Every species wanted to know about the brilliant commander who had defeated 20 warships without losing a single vessel. But Parker preferred to stay mysterious. Let them wonder, she told President Walsh. Fear of the unknown is often more powerful than fear of the known. Parker was put in charge of expanding Earth's defense network. New weapon platforms were built throughout the solar system, disguised as research stations and manufacturing facilities. If anyone else decided to attack Earth, they would face an even stronger defense. The human military also began exploring beyond the solar system. Scout ships visited nearby star systems, looking for good places to build secret bases. They moved carefully and quietly, making sure no one noticed their activities. Captain Danny Foster, hero of the Great Battle, was given command of the new flagship USS Enterprise. It was the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. Equipped with all the latest weapons and technology. Our job is to show the flag, Foster explained to his crew. We visit friendly systems, attend diplomatic events, and remind everyone that Earth is a power to be respected. The Enterprise looked impressive, but not threatening. Most of its weapons were hidden, just like the defense platforms in the asteroid belt. Aliens would see a beautiful starship, not knowing it could destroy an entire fleet if necessary. Major Kelly Brooks was promoted to colonel and put in charge of training new fighter pilots. Her squadron's performance during the battle had impressed military leaders across the galaxy, and many species wanted to learn human flying techniques. The secret is thinking like a human, not like a computer, she told her students. Aliens rely too much on their technology. They've forgotten how to use instinct and creativity. As the months passed, humanity's position in the galaxy grew stronger. Earth became a major hub for trade and diplomacy. The species that had once dismissed humans as primitives now competed for their friendship and alliance. But the most important change was in how the galaxy saw conflict. For centuries, most civilizations had believed that superior technology automatically meant victory in war. The human victory had proved that tactics, strategy, and determination could overcome technological advantages. Military academies across the galaxy began studying the Battle of Earth. They analyzed human tactics and tried to understand how such a primitive species had achieved such a complete victory. Of course, they never learned the real secrets. Humanity kept its most advanced technologies hidden and continued to appear less threatening than they actually were. President Walsh stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, looking out at the ships from dozens of different worlds. Earth had gone from being ignored to being one of the most important planets in the galaxy. "We've come a long way in a short time," Admiral Morrison said, joining her at the window. "Yes," Walsh replied, "but we must never forget the lesson we learned. Sometimes the greatest strength is letting others think you're weak, right up until the moment you prove them wrong." The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again, but they also would never know just how powerful Earth really was. And that was exactly the way humanity wanted it.